Don in London, good morning. May 21st, beautiful day outside, early morning, rain expected, typical UK weather here in London, England, and my video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour could be equally addictive around people, places and things. Wanting to be in the right place, with the right people, doing the right things and having the right things. So driven mad, I guess, to be perfect or try gain as much as I could so I looked right and felt right. And yet always having that feeling of less than for some reason. Less than somebody else. I have less than this, less than that. I'm not good enough. So always covering up as if I had something to be guilty or shameful about. And in the end, the only thing I was really guilty and shameful about was my inability to stop drinking and stop behaving badly around anything, people, places, things. So I had to learn how to be powerless over alcohol and then accept that if I were to drink again, life would get unmanageable. And it was a difficult journey. 35 years of drinking, lots of good experiences and lots of not good experiences or bad experiences. But in recovery, what I found out, every experience, if we're still alive after it, is probably worthwhile in some way or other. We learn a lesson, we're taught something, if we are in a way able to learn from it. And there will be times, always, where we say, I wish that hadn't happened, or that's happened, I wish it hadn't. So one day at a time, I remain sober at the moment, and it is only a one-day program for me. So what helped me? Family, friends, community, medical people, all helped me keep alive in the darkest of days when it was touch and go. And it came in different forms of help. And then I got to a moment of clarity where I felt it couldn't get any worse and I didn't know what to do. So I needed help. And I think that was my moment of clarity. I cannot beat addiction on my own. No matter how much I try my willpower, it seems to let me down in some respect. And how on earth can we say, I have enough willpower not to drink ever again? Well, the simple answer for me is, if I can do it for one day, that's all I have to do it for. A one-day program of recovery. And I've learned that as recovery goes on, and it's several years now, life keeps on happening, and I'm more able to cope with it, and more able to understand what is going on around me and what my part in life is. A big change. So I'm not trying to will life to be a certain way, I'm not wishing life a certain way. I may still wish that some things don't happen, the harder, nastier parts of life, but they're going to happen anyway, because I'm a human being on a planet with other humans. So we're going to have I guess, a balance of good and bad, or good and less often wanted experiences. What's helped me in recovery then? Well, simply a fellowship. Apart from, notwithstanding, family, friends, community and medical people all play their part every single day, there is a fellowship called AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't speak for it, never can, never will. It's full of unique, authentic people who speak where they will about their recovery. And that's the way it is. We're all unique and authentic, and we don't follow a particular pattern of living except for one aspect or one element. We are better off not drinking one day at a time. So that's how it works. We have a fellowship for sobriety, and then the rest of life keeps on happening. We live reality as it is today. And some say that is the true spiritual connection to life itself, to live in reality without it being distorted by out of balance feelings or substances or impossible wishes and selfishness. We find our path to be a part of the human race again. So what is AA? I always share the AA preamble, which is on this little card here. and it's a fold-over card. Inside it's got the 12 steps and 12 traditions. Inside 12 steps for me to learn about how to live life one day at a time, to be free, to make choices about what is possible and what's not possible. And the traditions are about holding the fellowship together in unity, service and recovery. And on the back of it, it has the serenity prayer. But all meetings, if you need one, because you have a desire to stop drinking or feel it's time to quit and you don't know how, or can't stop or won't stop, the fellowship is there to share about how it can happen. So you'll find every person from every walk of life in the fellowship, from rich to poor, to any colour and culture, all with one desire: stop drinking and let life work again, and keep on living life. So this is what the AA preamble says. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So it's absolutely essential that we find our own unique, authentic path of life outside fellowship, yet the fellowship is there to provide support about sobriety. And although it's not allied to anything and has no particular outlook, because it's not an organisation which is about control, it's about freedom. Every single person who goes to AA has their own personal opinions, beliefs, attitudes and outlooks, and that is as it may be, and nobody is bending anybody to their understanding of life, just making it possible to live life with free choice again. Free choice is based on our reality, our living situation. So it's not about creating or imagining something which is impossible. It's all about reality and coping with it. And the 12-step program, very briefly, is something we learn about as we go through life, sober, but we do it one day only. And those 12 steps are briefly like this. Step 1, I am powerless over alcohol, and if I drink again, life will get unmanageable. Step 2, I came to believe that a power greater than me could restore me to sanity, and that higher power can be anything that you choose, because it's your unique, authentic belief in possibly the wisdom of others, which is where it comes from for me, truth, love and wisdom, and that is my understanding of God. So, scratching my head when I say that. Step 3, let go and let good things happen. Let go self-will, willpower, to try and overcome something which is impossible on one's own, and let good ideas and wisdom back in again, and have the humility to keep on learning. Step 3, that is, let go and let God, as some people say. And step 4, do a life story which identifies what we're good at and where we got angry and resentful in our lives, and what continued to help us keep on believing it was okay to drink. And then step 5 is to share it with God and another human being. In other words, express our secrets, let them out. And May is all about step 5 for me, so I'll be talking more about step 5 in a little while. Step 6 is asking to have our defects of character removed on a daily basis. So my defects of character are probably around the 7 deadly sins, but more importantly, it's fear, putting on a brave face, and ego, which stops me sharing my truth with the world. So my primary defects are to hide and cover up, feel shame and guilt about failure and not being good enough. So if I can let that go, let go of what I feel were defects, but actually say to myself, well, fear and brave facing can be an asset if it's not too much. And in step 7, work on courage, faith and confidence to keep on doing the right thing. So step 6, I can have a fearful day, or step 7, I can have a faith-based day, faith in doing the next right thing. And step 8 is about making a list of people harmed and being willing to make amends and restitution. And then step 9 is about making the amends without doing harm or causing more harm to other people. So making restitution where it is possible to do so and appropriate to do so. And then the maintenance steps. Step 10, doing a personal inventory on a daily basis, checks and balances, what's disturbed me, what's working, what's not working. And part of step 10 for me is also writing out a few statements of gratitude, maybe. Step 11, prayer and meditation, can be done at any time of day. Reflection on what's working and what's not working, what's my part in it, what's the best way forward for everyone and not just me. And then step 12 is about sharing the message of experience, strength and hope with other people through fellowship or wherever it feels appropriate to do so, again without harming either the fellowship or other people. So those 12 steps, a very brief summary, but covers a lifetime of learning. And right underneath all of this is a word which is often misunderstood, or less so these days. It's called humility. So it's the humility to keep on learning life. And actually it's the greatest asset we can possibly have. So if we don't understand and we're confused, if we have humility, we'll find out and say it's okay not to know. I'm just ignorant about this. Big lorries going past, Saturday morning, clean-up time. So humility is really one of the keystones, or one of the greatest elements of life for me. And it took me a long time to get back to learning. I've been a lifelong learner. And the fellowship, as it says, anonymity for me is sanctuary for anyone in the rooms or groups or fellowship to find the truth of who we are. So expression of who we are helps us understand where our strengths are and where we need to develop further. So if, like in the old days, as a counsellor or a people helper, people developer, a person developer, learning was the key. And for me, I've learned a lot about imposing learning on other people, which doesn't work, and then having to go back to start from scratch, which is what I did when it came to understanding me, having lost my complete identity through addiction and being bent totally out of shape, and now not so bent out of shape, and learning how to be me and knowing a little bit more about me by the end of the day. So people ask, who am I? Well, I can tell you a little bit more about me by the end of the day, what's happened to me, which is good, because it means I'm still learning life. And that's the greatest opening, if you like, to freedom of choice, given where we are and what is happening. Here on the video I share from this book, Daily Reflections, today as Bill sees it, and also one I don't use very much. It's not because it's not authorised by AA. Sometimes it's just a bit dodgy for me. Sometimes 24-hour day book, which is quite useful because it's just another form of meditation. Some days it works for me, some days I feel like it's not quite for me. And that's the same as what I hear in fellowship. So we don't swallow everything that is said in fellowship, nor do we try and impose our ideas on other people when it comes to how to live. Beyond the 12-step program, probably, because it opens the door to lifelong learning again. So I'm very happy about that. In the Daily Reflections for today, May 21st, it talks about a list of blessings, and there's a large number of people within fellowship who have an understanding of God, and there are a large number of people who have an understanding of a higher power, and a large number of people who just don't know and are learning life. So nobody imposes their outlook on another person. And as a fellowship, we don't do that either. I say we. I don't do that either. That's the way it works. Because if I try to impose my ideas on you, quite rightly, you tell me where to go. But I can share the readings and what is working for me, not what's working for other people. A list of blessings. One exercise that I practice is to try for a full inventory of my blessings, or as some people call it, a gratitude list. Another word, dirty word in this sort of society is gratitude, because again it might imply subservience in some way, as does humility. And in my case, humility to learn the truth of now was certainly a place where I was lacking. But humility itself just means open to learn, open to new ideas. So what did I have to be grateful for? I shut myself up and started listing the blessings for which I was in no way responsible, beginning with having been born of sound mind and body. Yeah, well, to an extent I was. I went through 74 years of living right up to the present moment. The list ran to 2 pages and took 2 hours to compile. I included health, family, money, AA, the whole gamut. Every day in my prayers, I asked God to help me remember my list and to be grateful for it throughout the day. When I remember my gratitude list, it is very hard to conclude that God is picking on me. Or, what is happening? Why is somebody got a multi-million-pound house and I live in a small apartment? Well, the simple answer is I'm very happy where I am. And if I had a multi-million-pound apartment, would I have enough money to pay for it? Well, probably I would. But would I be any happier? The age-old question, would I be happier if I had a big fat bank account? And people say these days, well, misery would be more luxurious. I guess that's true, but what does actually make a person happy? A collection of material things? Maybe. But ultimately, emotionally and spiritually, living happily in the moment is what really counts for me. And so often I am, because it's the company I keep: family, community, friends and fellowship. So when it says here, the list ran to 2 pages and took 2 hours, including health, family, money, AA, the whole gamut. When I know my needs are met, enough, when I've got enough and I can survive, okay. So health, family, money, connection as best one can in any given circumstance. And sometimes those things just aren't available to me. Seems a morning of noise here. So health, family, money, AA, in that order. I know what my health is. I'm sober. I've got the average ailments a 55-year-old would have. Well, I'm still 54, but nearly 55. And in recovery I got type 1 diabetes, and in recovery I was properly diagnosed with clinical depression, which is a cyclical illness. So sometimes I'm okay, and sometimes I can hardly scrape myself off the floor because life just feels so awful. Financially, well, I was better off when I was absolutely at the, I suppose, worst drinking times. It was almost like fueling one addiction, drink. Relationships also led to career and striving to impossible odds to try and be right in what I was doing. So these days the balance is there. Finance is nowhere near what it used to be, but my relationships are better with people because I'm not looking for them to provide anything for me. I'm just looking to be in relationships with people socially, and however they turn out. That's how it is. So when I look at a gratitude list and the blessings, I know where I am today, I know what's going on for me, and one of the things I say to myself often is, how am I feeling, why, and what can I do? So my morning routines, if you like, include reminding myself of the first 3 steps of the program: powerlessness over alcohol, people, places and things. And it would be extraordinarily difficult if I started drinking again. Life would get unmanageable. To constantly remind myself on a daily basis that powers greater than me will help me keep sane. I don't have to rely on my own inner resource, which will let me down, in my view, because willpower, a life run on willpower and regimen, leaves us completely isolated from new learning in some instances, letting go and letting good things happen to me. So those are the first 3 steps. And then that I am responsible. I'm responsible when anyone anywhere reaches out for help. I want the hand of AA or fellowship to be there, and for that I'm responsible. So when I can help, and it's face to face, all well and good. But long distance help can be very difficult. And the serenity prayer, which I'll share at the end, those are the things I remind myself of in the morning. Anyway, as Bill sees it, I was just looking again. It says imagination can be constructed. What was it? Perception? Ah, yes, page 156. Perception of humility. An improved perception of humility starts a revolutionary change in our outlook. Our eyes begin to open to the immense values which have come straight out of painful ego puncturing. So once I realised I couldn't rule the world based on what I knew, then my ego was punctured. I didn't believe that I had to put on a brave face and trample on everybody, nor believe that my outlook was the only one. Until now, our lives have been largely devoted to running from pain and problems, or covering them up and drinking them away in my case. Escape via the bottle was always our solution. Then in AA we looked and listened. Everywhere we saw failure and misery, transformed by humility into priceless assets. So every stumble and pitfall and trip offers pain and growth. And that is a priceless asset, because it means we don't have to do it again. And in the past we did the same thing over and over again, and it drove us mad. To those who have made progress in AA, humility amounts to a clear recognition of what and who we really are, followed by a sincere attempt to become what we could be. And we don't know what we can be until we try. And around me I see so many people who start with less than, nothing, and start something, and it becomes bigger than them, often because it includes the rest of the world in the project. And I guess that's what happened to AA. But we have to be careful in AA that we don't then say, well, it's got to be this way or the highway. The most important thing to remember about AA is what you see on a daily basis is what you get. So sometimes it's great, fascinating and very informative. Now some days you think, well, why did I bother? And the answer is, if you are bothering to go to AA and you feel that way, it's better you express it and say, it doesn't feel right today, I'm not learning anything, is it me, or what is it? And usually it is us, as an individual. We can't hear what's going on because there's too much noise in our own heads about our own problems. So it's best we share them as quickly as possible. And in the 24-hour day book for today, just so you know, it does exist. And it's a Hazelden book, and it's not an AA book. One of the finest things about AA is the sharing. So I was just checking the date. Sharing is a wonderful thing, because the more you share, the more you have. In our old drinking days, we didn't do much sharing. We used to keep things to ourselves, partly because we were ashamed, but mostly because we were selfish. And we don't know we're selfish until we find out where we are with life. And we were very lonely because we didn't share. When we came into AA, the first thing we found was sharing. We heard other alcoholics frankly sharing their experiences with hospitals, jails, and all the usual mess that goes with drinking. Am I sharing? Yes, every day. And I try to be truthful, and sometimes when I look back, maybe I've left some bits out, but that's sometimes because there's not enough time. Because often in meetings we can't share because there isn't enough time. That's the way it is. But if we have a meeting before the meeting, get there early, and help put the chairs out, do something constructive, we start chatting to people, and we share our stuff. And then we hear it in the meeting from others, and we're in a right place. And then there are meetings after the meetings where people just take telephone numbers or stand on the sidewalk outside, or the curb, as we call it here, the pavement, and have a good chat as well. And sometimes these discussions can go on for a long, long time. And some people go for coffee, some people invite friends home. Most people have had enough after a meeting, go home to bed if it's an evening meeting, and feel a bit better that they're not isolated and alone. Indeed, we emerge from dark, shadowy places into lighter places where we can laugh again at life and get over ourselves, if you like, as we go forwards and backwards with our feelings and our ability to cope with what's going on. And coming back to the serenity prayer, which is always there, it reminds me, if I start to go off in a direction which is unhelpful or get angry and resentful, I need to ask myself, what can I do and what can't I do in this situation? The can do, can't do. And that's not to limit myself, but to make sure I know what the possibilities are, and then I know what the wisdom of the difference is. So that serenity prayer, a meditation or a reflection, either it's to God or in good conscience, which suits you, because it's our own personal understanding always of how these steps are working in our lives, and any of the toolkit working in our lives, that's what counts. So to God or in good conscience for May 21st, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference always, for me, just in the moment and for today. Don in London, hello. It's May 21st, 2009. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My substance was alcohol, my behaviour, trying to be perfect and never so. So, alcoholic, workaholic, relationshipaholic, all sorts of isms around substances and behaviour, which were repetitive and not always good for me. But that's not to say that all the time I was out there in the world drinking, it was all bad. An awful lot was achieved in terms of work, understanding relationships, and drinking to excess, either to be happy or to deal with sadness, and often to deal with unacceptable truth, the unacceptable truth of now. And sometimes the truth is unacceptable to us, and it's very hard to accept or even admit and accept what is going on. So the biggest thing I had to learn when I started to try and get sober was I didn't know how to get sober, and to learn a complete new way of life required some guidance. And the guidance I got was from medical, community, society, family, and especially family, very anxious to see me get well or disown me because I was a complete nightmare to deal with and unpredictable. And that's where addiction takes us often. We hold on tight and cannot let go in the end of that which is killing us, and that's self-will run riot and gone wrong. So I'm circumspect about a lot of things which happened in my drinking days, and know that drink had an influence always. It took the edge off, and it changed the way I felt. So these days I'm very happy if my feelings change of their own accord, depending on what is happening in my life. So sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's sad, and sometimes it's just very even, normal, and quite extraordinary, where we can see what is going on and not be looking down or hiding. So I guess really part of the reason why I do these videos on YouTube is to share what happened and made my life work a little bit better, and without alcohol, and without, I suppose, reaching for more behaviour which would satisfy some sort of want inside me to fill the gap, this feeling of not being quite right or not good enough. So what's helped me? Family, community, society, all sorts of things. I've had some medical breaks which kept me alive, and on a daily basis I go to a fellowship full of unique, authentic people, so I can't speak for them, but I can speak about me and what makes my life tick. So the fellowship I go to is AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and I just heard it mentioned on a BBC programme on the TV about somebody who was trying to medicate away their depression, and the only medication they could control themselves was alcohol until it controlled them. I don't know when we go past that imaginary line of crossing the line into addiction. I guess it's always there to be had. And I went to 3 meetings of AA yesterday, partly because one person wanted to go with somebody at lunchtime, and then later because I felt the need. My head was cluttered, I was overtired, and I sometimes suffer from the other effects of other long-term illness, one of which is type 1 diabetes, and hand in hand is clinical depression. So it's quite a complicated triumvirate of things to deal with, and if I tried to deal with them on more than a daily basis, I suspect life would get so unmanageable trying to get it all right and perfect that I could end up doing myself in. And that's not, an overstatement, and I sort of have a half smile about it, because today I don't feel like that. But there are days when the world is very, very dark and it's very desolate, and I know I need to wait it out. And one of the phrases which was shared last night, I think it was let time do its healing, or let healing needs time, all that, and wait it out. Sometimes it's very difficult to do that. That's why I go to the fellowship meetings, because at least I'm in company, and misery likes isolation and keeping us away from, and actually company builds us up to look at some hope for the future. So this too shall pass was the phrase I was looking for. This too shall pass. Oh my word, how often did I hear those in the early days of my recovery, and think, yeah, but when? And the simple answer is daily. If we apply ourselves to 12 steps of changing our attitude and behaviour, and sticking with sobriety one day at a time. So I share about AA here because it keeps me sober, and the preamble, which is shared at every meeting, is at the beginning. And I go to mainly hourly meetings. Very rarely do I go to an hour and a half one, but I quite like it when I do, because I get to hear more people share what's going on. But the preamble, which you will hear if you ever go to an AA meeting, goes, Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I heard that 3 times yesterday, and my head was all over the place, which is okay. Sometimes we have difficult days where all sorts of thoughts and feelings flood in, and I've had a few challenges of late, just how to keep sober a day at a time, and that's alright. First 5 months of this year were very difficult. Anyway, apart from being difficult, I've been able to do a video most days and make some sense of life. I'm just checking my clock. Here, daily reflections, I use this here on YouTube. It gives me some shape to understanding where I am today and what I might be grateful for. And on May 21st, it says this: a list of blessings. One exercise that I practice is to try for a full inventory of my blessings. What did I have to be grateful for? I shut myself up and started listing the blessings for which I was in no way responsible, beginning with having been born of sound mind and body, and I don't know if I was. I went through 74 years of living right up to the present moment. The list ran to 2 pages and took 2 hours to compile. I included health, family, money, AA, the whole gamut. Every day in my prayers I ask God to help me remember my list and to be grateful for it throughout the day. When I remember my gratitude list, it's very hard to conclude that God is picking on me. And I agree, because he's not picking on me when I got type 1 diabetes from a virus, and it wasn't down to lifestyle, although I would have quite happily said it would be. We are human, and if we are subject to human things like decay, I suppose that's why you call it decades of living. We decay gradually. We get big and then we decay. And this too shall pass into something else, but I don't know what yet. Just checking the time. Oh, I have enough time. As Bill sees it for today, or just page 108, I'm doing these linearly. You can read as much of As Bill Sees It until you feel totally sustained and you can get out there and face the world. So it's good to do these in the morning. Learn in quiet. In 1942, a news clipping was called to our attention by a New York member. In an obituary notice from a local paper, there appeared these words: God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference, which is the serenity prayer. Never had we seen so much AA in so few words. With amazing speed, the Serenity Prayer came into general use, and that's said at the end of every meeting, here in London anyway. In meditation, debate has no place. We rest quietly with the thoughts or prayers of spiritually centered people who understand, so that we may experience and learn this state of being that so often discovers and deepens a conscious contact with God, or good conscience, or nature and providence. And for me, when I wake up in the morning, and it may seem a bit peculiar to do this, as somebody who is never sure whether they're agnostic, atheist or a God believer, but a believer in a right path maybe, when I wake up and I say the Serenity Prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It helps me move from what might be a problem, which is my internal workings, to a solution, which is to share my concerns or fears or feelings with another human being, and that can be anyone or everyone. We all need conscious contact with people and what is going on around us. So as to conscious contact with God, if God is truth, God is love, and God works through people, maybe just on a daily basis I'm getting some chance to make my life work for one day.